Cabinet or card scrapers like this are great for flattening glue seams, leveling uneven joints, or avoiding tricky tear out on figured woods where hand planes sometimes don't cut it. A tiny burr along the edge that's almost too small to see is what cuts the wood fiber so cleanly. But sharpening that edge to get that important burr takes some practice, and it also requires several tools. But Rockler's 3-in-1 Cabinet Scraper Sharpening Tool can make the whole process easier. In this video, let's put it through its paces to get a cabinet scraper ready for use. Sharpening a cabinet scraper requires several tools. You need a file and a means of holding the file square to the scraper's face. You need a fine grit sharpening stone for removing the filing marks, and you need a hardened steel burnishing rod of some sort to reshape the scraper's edges. And that's where Rockler's 3-in-1 Cabinet Scraper Sharpening Tool offers the first big advantage. It includes all of these sharpening tools in one. It has a double cut second file, a 2500 grit diamond hone, and a hardened steel burnishing rod, all mounted in a compact base that's easy to hold. Now during sharpening on almost a microscopic level, what we're going to do is this. First, we're going to create square edges on the scraper, and then we're going to deform the steel to create those tiny burrs that do the actual cutting. Now I don't sharpen a cabinet scraper every day, and you probably don't either. So when the time comes, I have to remind myself of the right order of operations to do it correctly. And sometimes I can't quite remember for sure. And that's the second big advantage to this innovative tool. The 4 essential steps to sharpening are embossed right on the base next to the tool that does the work for that particular step. And here are those steps. The first is filing. The second is honing. The third is drawing the burr. And the fourth is turning the burr. And both of these two steps use this burnishing rod. So let's put this tool to work. Here I've got my scraper clamped in a metalworking vise, and I'm ready for step 1. I'll set the file down onto the scraper's edge, and holding the tool's blue fence against the scraper's face, I can give the edge 10 or 12 strokes. This files off the dull edge of the steel and creates a fresh, square edge. The filing process has actually left some tiny striations and rough marks on the edge of the scraper, so we need to smooth those away and sharpen the edges. We're ready for step 2, honing. The honing process is just like filing. Set the diamond hone down into place and give the scraper enough passes to smooth its entire edge. You'll feel that the corners are now sharper too. And now we're ready for step 3, drawing the burr. What we're going to do at this step is literally deform the steel and push these sharp corners up over the edge of the scraper like this. To do that, I'm setting the scraper flat on my workbench and holding the tool so step 3 is up and the burnishing rod is facing the scraper. I tip the tool slightly away from the scraper and run the rod along the scraper's corners several times, applying moderate downward pressure. Pretend the burnishing rod is creating a tiny chamfer on the corner of the scraper. I'm going to go ahead and flip my scraper over and draw out a burr on the other corner too, because I like to have burrs on both sides of my scraper. Now we're here in the sharpening process with both burrs standing up on the edge. It's time to turn them down toward the faces of the scraper, like this. With the scraper clamped in the vise again, position the tool on the scraper's edge and so the angled fence next to step 4 is pressed against the scraper's face. It'll actually tilt the burnishing rod about 10 degrees downward. Slide the rod along the edge slowly and with moderate pressure several times. You don't have to use guerrilla force when turning a burr, because remember, this is a very small area of steel, and you're putting a lot of concentrated force down onto a tiny spot. So, easy does it. You'll know you've done it right if you can catch your fingernail on the burr like this. You can also hear it in the steel. This scraper is ready to go to work. To use it, flex the center slightly outward with your thumbs, tip it forward until you can feel the burr catching the wood, and push the scraper forward. Sometimes it cuts best when pushed straight, while other times it'll cut better when pushed at an angle. That'll depend on the burrs, your technique, and the board you're smoothing. The goal is to create light, fluffy curls more than dust. Remember to periodically clean out the burr with a fingernail. When the scraper stops cutting or only produces dust, switch to the other burr. You might also be able to turn the same burr more than once before the scraper needs to be resharpened. Rockler's patented 3-in-1 Cabinet Scraper Sharpening Tool is unlike any on the market, and it can help make your sharpening process more intuitive and convenient, with everything you need rolled into one. See it at your local Rockler store or at rockler.com. I'm Chris Marshall with Rockler and Woodworker's Journal magazine, and thanks for watching.